Asia live interview session. This time, we are covering about IoT, Internet of Things, during this pandemic with the title, Unlocking IoT Full Potential in the New Normal. Okay. This live interview session is with a collaboration of EMAS, Electronics Manufacturing Expo Asia, and AMAX, Asia Manufacturing Expo Virtual Edition 2020. Many thanks to our fast supporting partners, MARI, Malaysia Automotive Robotics and IoT Institute, MATA, Malaysia Automation Technology Association, Samantha, Small and Medium Enterprises Association, and SIAA, Singapore Industrial Automation Association. We are honored to invite two industry experts share with us their insight of IoT in new normal. Let's welcome Mr. Eric Chan, the Vice President of Intel Corporation and General Manager of IoTG, Internet of Things Group, Customer Engineering. Mr. Eric, would you want to say hi with everyone?
Hi, thanks for the introduction, Joyce, and good morning to everyone. So I'm Eric Chan. Joyce, you want me to do introduction now?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, you may.
Yeah, so Eric Chan here. I'm actually based out of Malaysia. As some of you know, Intel naturally is a leading provider of processors for your notebook, desktop PCs, and server in the cloud as well. But what maybe a lot of the audience may not be aware, we also have more than that. We sell a lot of other products as well, FPGA, AI accelerators, and we have a huge campus in Malaysia, one in Penang on the island, one is in Kulim in Kedah, and we also have in Asia, huge manufacturing sites in Vietnam, China, and then we have sales office all across Southeast Asia, Singapore, KL, and Thailand and elsewhere. So a very well established presence in Southeast Asia. So today I hope to share some of our thoughts on what Intel is doing in this Internet of Things space.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Eric. We would love to hear more from you later on. And next is Mr. Tiong Kee Hock, the President of Malaysia Automation Technology Association, MATA. Mr. Tiong, would you want to say hi with
everyone? Hi, good morning, everyone. Can you hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. First of all, thank you to Automax for inviting me to be the speaker today. And of course, let me just give a short introduction about MATA, the association that we were formed in way back in 2003. Of course, when we first started, it was started off as an industry group under FMM, the Federation of Malaysian Manufacturers, and we became a legal entity in 2012. Now, of course, our main mission is actually to promote the advancement of automation technology and also the industry for adoption in Malaysia. And our members actually include the companies involved in the whole value chain of automation, which includes automation parts and system manufacturers, as well as system integrators, software vendors, machine builders, and also companies involved in panel and also resellers, as well as what they call training providers. Of course, we are, as an association, we are also very much involved with another federation, which is called the Machinery and Engineering Industry Federation. It is a federation that is now currently championing an initiative by MPC, which is called the M&E, Machinery and Equipment Productivity Nexus. It's actually one of 9 nexuses which actually try to bring up the productivity level of machinery and equipment players in Malaysia. Of course, as one of the initiatives also under this MAPN is actually to look at how to help the SME, one of the initiatives called the Productivity 1010, where MATA is very much involved. So we try to help about our target to reach out to about 1,000 SME companies to help them to develop a digital transformation roadmap. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Tiong. And a very warm welcome to the live audience who is watching this right now. All right, now I shall pass the floor to Ms. Atira to conduct the live interview session. Ms. Atira?
Thank you, Ms. Jovi. Good morning to Mr. Eric and Mr. Tiong. We're going to move with the first question. Good morning. Okay, the COVID-19 pandemic has turned most countries to a new normal living, and one of them is supplying and depending on the Internet of Things. But while millennials and Gen Z might have an easier approach to this, how do people generally adapt to the IoT, especially baby boomers? Mr. Tiong, you may start first.
Okay, maybe I should be the best person to answer this question because I belong to the baby boomers. so I think yeah, it's true. I think that it is generally a challenge. I think for people in my generation, in the what they call the baby boomers, because I think most of them now, I think in their retirement years. Of course, I think if you talk about just using of smart devices like handphone, wearables, and PCs and all that, I think I would say by and large, most of them should be able to use these devices. I think the only difference, I think if there is any, will be those who are living in the what they call rural areas, perhaps, which they don't have the exposure to the internet and things like that. So of course, I think if you compare to the to younger generation like the millennial and of course the Generation Z, I think obviously apps, you know, that is related, which utilization of all the apps in the smart devices. I think obviously our generation maybe are the one that will be left out. So, but I believe maybe fortunately for me, I still do a lot of these things. Like for example, I still buy things online. I you know, I have no problem in terms of the you know, following up the technology of the IoT and digital transformation. But of course, maybe not everyone in my generation are as fortunate as me. So some of them maybe are still trying to struggle with you know, how to use a smartphone and things that I believe. So I believe this is a situation where society as it progresses, I think those who are living in the urban area, I think will benefit from this digital transformation, and of course the rural areas will be left out. That's my input. Yeah, maybe Eric has more to share. Okay.
Thank you, Mr. Tiong. Mr. Eric?
Yeah, so I think what we have seen really, I think, is the whole emergence of the smartphone. I think some of us have parents, you know, and you realize that it's not that tough. Once you make the interface simple, I think my parents' time would not have touched a PC or notebook, but for smartphone, they are using, my dad in 80 plus still using WhatsApp and so forth. So I think the transformation of these smart devices, in the case smartphone, have helped to onboard a lot more people, because it's just in some cases just touch and speak. So it's really simple. I think that helps a lot. And if you use that as a bit of an edge device for Internet of Things, that will be the hub. So everything you do, you interact through the smartphone, whether you're ordering a ride share or ordering a delivery food and all. The smartphone today make it so simple. And thanks to the advancement of technology, in this case, some of this cellular coverage, data plan, you know, whether it's 4G and soon we got 5G, I think it really helps to bring a lot of people. The concern that we had from inside one time was a bit of the digital divide. We want to get everybody on board, everybody have access to technology and so-called the benefits of the digital world. I think the smartphones and of course some of these tablets, notebooks really help to bring everybody so-called on board. But to maybe Mr. Tiong's point, I also think there are also now new advancements. So case in point, smart speakers. I also recently set up for my wife at home, so she can talk to Alexa to on the aircon and so forth. So I think you will see more of this Internet of Things devices, smart speaker, smart cameras, you know, auto gate, IP cameras, that very soon the smartphone or a notebook will able to bring it all together. And all you have to do is just use your voice. and you can, once you connect it well, now you're right, the setting up, you do need a bit of help from someone, but once you set it up, it's very easy to use, and anyone who know how to speak will use. And I actually think if you look at even like some WhatsApp, a lot of people like to leave voice messages. So if you can leave voice messages to Alexa or Siri, you can turn on a lot of stuff. So I feel that the technology advancement and everything that we're doing in the digital space are able to bring more people on board. I think that's a good thing, because what we don't want is technology only available for a certain set of people. So I really felt in this case, we're doing well. And then this is really on the consumer side of it. So then in the enterprise side of it, you see got a lot of people at that age still working, whether in a factory or warehouse or whatever. And even there, I think we can make it easier for them to use it, so that anyone can easily adopt the Internet of Things.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Going to move to the second question. The global economic impact from the outbreak has caused a massive loss to most companies. Is it advisable for industry players to implement IoT with limited resources? Mr. Tiong?
Well, I would say that all the more, I think if you look at what's happening right now with the COVID-19 that is happening, affecting, I think, many enterprises worldwide. I think from the data what we have heard is that actually maybe the only good thing that come out from this COVID is that it actually served as a catalyst actually to actually accelerate this adoption of this IoT or digital transformation in many countries, especially in the bigger enterprises. So of course, if you talk about industry players in the what they call in the SME, I think obviously I think they are always the laggard to this adoption, and of course even in advanced countries like Germany, I heard that even the adoption in the SME is only about 20%. I think that is understandable because I think for the SME, but I think if you look at this, of course, most of these SME are trying to survive. Perhaps they are, of course, very much affected by this COVID. But nevertheless, I think it is still important for them to actually look into implementing some kind of digital transformation in that sense of digitization. I would say that at least they can start from something, because if they would have seen, I think, with this COVID affecting it, if they have not actually have any what they call digital connection, they will not be able to actually operate remotely, not able to have their employees working from home. So I think obviously, despite the fact that it is difficult, I think they still have to do. I think IoT is something that it is a revolution. I think if most people understand, I think Malaysia has been talking about this industry forward, national policy on industry forward. I think since 2018, there's a lot of awareness now been actually for SME or even including companies to go actually get themselves ready for this assessment and all that. But I think despite all these, I think based on what we heard is that I think most SME are still taking the wait and see attitude. So I'm actually taking this opportunity actually to actually urge actually out the companies out there, especially the SME. I think government is very concerned. Of course, I think trying to give a lot of help in whatever way possible, not only in form of a grant, they even actually have some kind of advisory. In fact, MATA together with working with NPC, we came up with this initiative and actually try to actually teach SME to work out, for example, calculate the ROI or investment, and also to prioritize which area they should start their digitalization journey. So I think, however limited resources they may have, I still think that they have to start their what they call digitization journey, even in this difficult time, because as someone has said, even if you talk about maybe in 10 years time, I think if you are not you are not in a digital economy, your business are not digitalized, I think you may not survive, even you may not even exist in this business now. I think that's my my take on how these industry players should look at digitization. Thank you, and maybe Eric.
Thank you, Mr. Tiong, for your view. Mr. Eric?
Yeah, I do agree with Mr. Tiong. I think really the reality is this global pandemic have triggered and accelerated the digital transformation. And I try to classify it. Maybe some of the more consumer retail-based brick and mortar, and maybe even some of the street vendors. You can see they are all business all impacted. People are concerned. People don't go to the shopping malls and everything. So in some cases they have no choice, but to transform. Whether they go like food delivery instead of serving customers at the bit of their own premises, now they got to have an option for customers to order the food. Even I've been out to the street vendors. Now they have this e-cash payment where people don't want to touch anything. They just want to use a phone to pay and so forth. So I think in some cases from the consumer side, and you don't have to do this in a big way. Some of it you can start in phases, maintain your customers and all. Now, in some cases, things you get even more disrupted. So in that case, then the SME has to go realize that by applying this Internet of Things in stages, you're able to gather a lot of data. And I didn't share this upfront, but one of the benefit of Internet of Things is that you're able to gather a lot of data, and this data become insights. And then if you apply artificial intelligence, AI on top of it, you're getting more insights about your customer, the buying pattern. What are they looking for? When do they order? And this will help a lot. So as we transform, there are two pieces to look at. Is your revenue being disrupted? If you are, then you may need the new data insights to tell you where your business is. And in some cases, I see they may have more revenue through delivery than actual customer coming in, right? So a lot of this data can share with you. And some cases you need to reduce costs because your cost is running high. You got a lot of wastage, and you don't have the data to show where you are losing a lot of the wastage or where you could improve. And all these things you can help the bottom line as well. And we have seen this in many cases. Where there is a auto sign-in, where there's no touch payment. In some cases, you're using autonomous robot to do a lot of disinfection or sanitization. So I actually think as to Mr. Tiong's point, if we don't take this opportunity to transform ourselves, to move ourselves closer to the digital economy, I think we're losing out. And more importantly, we'll get disrupted and we get obsoleted. So in some sense, this is the best time to test it, and everybody is trying it out. And you don't have to do it all by yourself. In some cases, like for Intel, we've done a lot of work. We have these market-ready solutions. So our ecosystem have proven it. And so you really don't have to do a lot. You just so-called take it from the market, apply it, and just so that for the audience, in a way, in the case of in Malaysia, we are working with the government, in this case, MIDA, one of the agency for investment, and we have provided AI dev kit, a development kit for our SME to start applying some of this Internet of Things, taking the data and how to use AI to process it to get the insights to improve the process. So all these things are happening, and I really would encourage the audience today, don't wait. Start small, but start, because that way you are getting on board to the next wave of the digital economy.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Going to move to the next session. There was a case of low connectivity in rural areas such as Sabah and Sarawak in Malaysia. While there is discrimination between rural and urban areas on connectivity, as IoT is regarded as essential in the new normal. Are there any plans and incentives being discussed, Mr. Tiong?
Okay, I think as far as this, what I call disparity, I will call it more like a digital divide between the rural and the urban areas. So I think it's rather discrimination. I think it's more of because of companies who are involved in telco companies, when they actually lay the cables or fiber optic cables or maybe communication towers, obviously they will put this what I call hardware or devices in the areas where they are most populated. So if you look at the profile of demographic of people actually I would say that people are most of the people are living in the urban areas, obviously because of concentration of population. I would say that it is quite natural that these people who live in the urban area will actually get to have the high-speed connection to the internet, of course. But I think to rectify this, I think it actually requires the government to step in, because I think if you leave it to the enterprise or business, I think they may not find it to be profitable for them to actually, lay more fiber optic cable or may put more communication towers in this area. So I think this recent, case that happened in a college students that actually have to climb out to the trees to actually there's something that is created some sensation. I think she has to spend 24 hours up in the tree, just to ensure that he has got a good connection to the internet, so that he can sit for his examination for the university exam. So I think there's something quite unfortunate. But I think it is definitely a reality, because I think unless the government step in, things will not happen. Of course, unless whatever politician that represent the area that they have, I think things will not happen. Of course, based on if you talk about incentives and things like that, I would say that based on the recent government budget that has been announced in 2021, I think there has been some allocation of about close to 7.6 billion, I think, trying to improve the internet speed and as well as internet connection in the rural areas, especially Sabah and Sarawak. So of course, again, as I said, maybe even if they look at Sabah and Sarawak, they will still look at, ultimately when they decide, I think it's still based on the population demand. So I think that requires a little bit of government effort to actually step in to ensure that the last mile connectivity is there, even is sparsely, especially in the inner land, because otherwise they will be at the disadvantaged group, especially those who live in I think I'm not sure about those people who are living slightly inner in the rural areas. So this is, of course, I think requires a lot of effort from government. Of course, enterprise, as far as the companies involved in the business is concerned, I think there's this fund that is already made available, I think, to contribute to this fund, and of course how this fund can be used to actually to roll out this last mile connectivity to the resident. Yeah, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tiong. Mr. Eric.
Yeah, I do agree. I think the connectivity is turning to be a basic amenity, something like our water, electricity, and I think the government needs to do better. And I think we learned from the pandemic. A lot of us who have kids, because of the movement control, they have to study from home. And if you don't have good connectivity, you don't get your online education. So therefore, I think it's really the government got to push harder. The telcos got to do their part, because without which, you're right, some people will be left out as part of this whole digital economy, digital environment. I really think that's what we got to go advocate to the government and some of the enterprises. On our side, I think this is how I think IoT can help. Now, naturally, you still need the connectivity, but what we have done is that we realize for a lot of Internet of Things, we are trying to keep it very low bandwidth. So if nothing changed, don't need to trigger. And in some cases, like even IP cameras, surveillance camera, if there's no detection, there's no need to upload all the data to the cloud. You're just wasting bandwidth, wasting your data plan. And so what we have done is that we take a lot of the goodness, a cloud solution, we are moving it closer to the edge. Where possible, a lot of the decision, when you get the data, a lot of the decision could be done at the edge. So the Internet of Things will be smart enough to tell you, oh, it's okay. There's no need to trigger unless you cross over a threshold point or a trigger point. So there's also a bit of a technology advancement where even with a 3G, low data, high latency, we can still make some of this environmental center work. So if should there be a flood, Should there be air quality? We can still use some of this technology to mitigate the challenges. Of course, all of us want broadband speed and so forth, but the reality, it does take time. And therefore, this is where I think companies such as Intel could come in and figure out how do we do it in this environment, very low bandwidth, and yet we can make it work, and where we can push some of the cloud to the edge. So you have to move all the data back up to the cloud to get it processed, because otherwise there's simply not enough bandwidth in the network to carry a lot of this. So I feel if we partner together, along with the government, along with the telcos and so forth, we can still enable a lot of people as beyond the cities into the rural area to get and enjoy the full benefits of Internet of Things.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. The pandemic has caused a massive and increasing use of hybrid IT, which leads to risk exposure for companies. So based on your view, what are the key issues behind this IoT-originated attack? What are the strategies enterprises should employ to overcome this? Mr. Tiong?
Maybe I would like to ask Eric to, just change the order. Maybe Eric can take the question first.
Yes, I can start first. You're right. I feel
Yeah.
So let me go take a hit on this. And a lot of the people on the audience, you are also naturally exploring. That's why you sign on to understand a bit more. And through a lot of the market research, security is number one concern for IoT adoption. The number two concern is how to pair the operation technology, OT and IT together. But security remains the number one concern. And you have read it in the press. There are a lot of what I call hacking happening, whether it's a nuclear plant or whether you hear about the Mirai botnet, where the hacks take over some of your IP cameras or digital video recorders and do a lot of send a lot of packets back into creating this denial of service hack. So if we are not able to protect the Internet of Things, if you don't feel secure about having some of the smart speaker at home, smart IP cameras at home, then you won't apply it and you won't adopt it. And so it's very crucial for the solutions provider, including Intel, who's providing a lot of the hardware silicon. So we have provided a lot of silicon with a lot of enhanced security and enclave, encryption, acceleration. So we are trying to make it very safe. And beyond the silicon, we're also providing what I call the firmware, software, to enhance the penetration from a lot of these hackers. And if you do it right, then actually there's very little concern. A lot of cases, this just, I would feel, is a bad behavior. Just like your password, if you buy any gateway, it's always admin and password, right? So some of these things are just bad behavior. We should encourage and make it such that there's always very good password for some of this Internet of Things. So I really think that is very important for some of us. And then for Intel, we also have this security first splash. So a lot of what we do, we go through our own testing to make sure that we have thorough security, and every quarter now we release a patch. Should there be a gaps we found out, and you can't close all of this. This is like software. There will always be some vulnerability, some gaps, some risks, so we just need to patch it, and we continue to do it. I think some of the simple Internet thing is still fine, but when you go into really critical enterprises, power plants, some of these things, and then you really don't want to be exposed, and that would be very detrimental to the adoption of IoT. And so on their part, I think Intel and together with our partners have provided a lot of security enhancement so that if you do it right and with the right behavior, a lot of your concern on security will go away. Over to you, Mr. Tiong.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Eric. Mr. Tiong, anything you want to add?
Okay, thank you to Eric for already done a good job in this question, but maybe I just like to add that I think as far as this risk exposure is concerned, I think companies really have to see this risk from this attack, cybersecurity, as one of the what I call risks that they really have to consider as a top priority, because I think with the more usage of this technology, especially connection to the internet. And I think obviously they, based on my organization, the company that I represent, of course, we view cybersecurity as one of the big risks that we have to actually consider all the time. In fact, like for example, we always have this top-down education, which actually always, make sure that every year we have to attend some kind of, training on this, because I think there's always been update, new things, new knowledge that we have to equip ourselves, because the new, tactics that these hackers are using and things like that. I think, especially in the areas like, for example, email. I think based on the information I got, is that 90% of the cybersecurity threats actually were initiated through email. So obviously, email, how to handle emails, like for example, all the junk mails and whatever phishing emails that is happening, because this I think these habits of user has to be really taught. I think especially for enterprises where they have all accessibility to the internet. So I think perhaps company, especially the SME, maybe if they have to adopt more of this IT, internet connection to the cloud, then obviously I think they really have to seriously look into how to address this risk. In fact, they definitely need to have maybe a team of people who are at least one or two persons who are very familiar with this area to able to take charge. And of course, also I think they need to have some kind of devices to be able to monitor this all the time. Because if they don't monitor, then they don't know whether maybe they have been subject to this exposure without them knowing. So if they have some kind of perhaps firewall maybe necessary, I think if they have some what they call the server instead of putting in the information in the cloud, if they have their edge or their own server, then I think obviously I think some kind of firewall may be needed. I think that's why especially for SME. That's how I view this security issue. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Tiong. Going to move on with the last question. So in your opinion, do you think the ongoing pandemic will accelerate a significant growth in connected IoT devices and generate more data in the coming years? What is your take from this? Any one of you may start first.
Yeah, Eric, okay, you may start first. Yeah.
Yes, so for sure, the digital transformation, I think this is where, when we were rolling out a lot of the Internet of Things, the thought process was quite simple. We want to have a lot of this smart and connected Internet of Things, gathering a lot of data, insights, for us to know what's going on and for us to respond, sometimes in real time, sometimes even remotely. But what we did not foresee was that, yeah, you collect a lot of data, you don't know what to do with it, and sometimes there are a lot of data. And then came artificial intelligence, AI. And what we found out was that AI feed on data. And the more you collect, the better it gets. So if for those in the audience, if you want to adopt artificial intelligence, you need a large data set. And that's where you do what we call the training. And once you do the training on the data, you would able to create the inferencing so that you could almost get the right answers, whether it is error detection, smart cameras, and to a point, you could be almost better than humans because you're so well trained as part of the AI. I think this is where Internet of Things, coupled with the data generation, masses of data, coupled with the adoption of AI, will really help to really make a difference to the enterprise. I think this is one thing that we see the whole opportunity over there, and I really encourage all of us to look into it because data is becoming like the new oil. The insights, why it's so important, and in some cases, a lot of the cases for these web-based services, the business model is on your data. Google is collecting all your data, and so is Facebook and all. So really, I really think in some cases we got to protect the data. And for a lot of enterprises, this is the best time to so-called generate, store, compute, process the data, get the insight, and you can make a lot out of it. So I do see this transformation happening, and the sooner we create the environment to capture and extract the insights out of the data, the better it is for us.
Thank you, Terry. Mr. Xiang, anything you want to add?
Well, I think obviously this pandemic has accelerated this growth of this digital transformation. Obviously, the importance of data has already been highlighted by Eric just now. I think Jack Ma, it's a famous Alibaba chairman, used to say that Alibaba is not a IT company, but rather a data company. So I think it actually he spelled out clearly that data is very important, I think, in the future. So especially, I think even recently, I think although this the ends what I call has not able to be released, but I think also I think they are trying to make use of data, credit data of people, and then so that they're able to process their what I call loans in a very short time and things like that. So these again, data will become more and more important. But I think I perhaps from my background involving in the manufacturing industries, I would say that of course this digital transformation is a little, maybe in a manufacturing sector is a bit laggard compared to the consumer industry. I think in a financial, for example, in the financial, perhaps even maybe in the future in the medical industry, I think it may even take off earlier. But I think in manufacturing, I think I must say that the take up is still a little bit slow. That's the reason why I'm very much involved with these activities together with MPC, trying to educate, of course, especially the SME, to actually help them to actually what I call identify which areas they should start off. Like for example, in what we have is, of course, there's this self-assessment tool, and then we also have these prioritization tools and things like that, helping them to let them know that which area they should prioritize, which area that can give them the biggest return, and of course helping them to come up with roadmap, and of course if necessary able to get some financial assistance from government. So I think the concern, I think if you talk about IoT adoption in the coming years, especially is the SME in the manufacturing sector, because I think this is the areas that we still use a lot of foreign labor. A lot of things are still manually captured, without any digital what they call data capturing at all. I think these are areas that I think a lot of companies are still not paying enough attention into, especially the SME. All right, that is a reality of the current situation right now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tiong and Mr. Eric. We're going to move with the Q&A session from the audience. Okay, one of the question, can you share your view on how can we readily implement the AI in our education system in regards with our budget constraint?
I can take that, and then I'm quite sure Mr. Tiong could share some of his perspective as well. For Intel, as well as maybe a lot of the MNCs, multinationals, we have a lot of outreach program. So we reach out to universities, and then we help to provide a lot of final year projects. We provide training, including some cases even curriculum on designing some of the latest technology. And so this is one of the initiatives. And recently, we also have another program across Intel, AI for Youth. So we reach out a lot of, even at the school, high school level, to teach them the basics of AI and some of the software programming. So I think this is what we can do. And in the case of universities, we are also part of the Inter Malaysia Design Competition, where we bring the best of the university's students. Some of it part of the final year project, some maybe third year, and then they compete. And then a lot of the MNCs we sponsor, whether the training, the dev kits, or the hardware or the software, for them to go develop on the final year project, and really to get them ready. So when the time they graduate, a lot of the companies will also hire them. So I think this outreach program will continue to move forward. Now, recently, because of the pandemic, we can't do a lot of in-person. So we also went on virtual. So we open up, provide a lot of training through virtually, conduct training and so forth. So I think regardless how the situation is, there is a lot of motivation from a lot of these companies, including SMEs as well, who is having their outreach program to connect closer to the schools and universities to get our students and our graduates ready. By the time they come out of the college, they're ready for the workforce.
Thank you, Mr. Eric. Mr. Tiong?
So the question is about how to use AI to improve the training, you're saying? Is that the question?
Yes, yes. Can you share your view on how can we readily implement the AI in our education system in regards with our budget constraints?
Utilizing AI. Well, I suppose, I think virtual or some kind of perhaps simulation, because I think especially when you are not able to do a physical face-to-face kind of training, then I think some kind of training using virtual or again some kind of simulation maybe one way to go. But I'm not sure about AI, because I think to use AI really, unless you have already got a lot of data that you have collected over the years, then you are able to use AI. Because otherwise, I think it's maybe to start considering how to use a simulation. I think simulation is perhaps one of the areas you can using some kind of perhaps like for example, I maybe are able to use example like for our case is that how we are able to allow, say for example, customers to actually log in to able to access, for example, controllers, how the controller works with another devices and things like that. So at least they're able to actually learn it, virtually, without actually physically, in presence. I think that's perhaps one way to go about in this area and pandemic. Rather than looking at AI right now, I think because if you are really not ready, I think maybe AI it's unless you have enough data and for you to see how you can improve your training. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that as well. I think we're also working with MDAC. I think they are making some of this common data set available. So I think over time there will be enough common data set that all of us could subscribe to, and then do the training and then get the inferencing. So I do think you're right, Mr. Tiong. I think some cases still a bit of a infancy in some cases, depending on industry. But I also think this is the path to go, and we need more talent to be able to embrace the AI so-called driven economy. Because a lot of it, we saw that in chatbot, we see there's a lot of auto sign-on. A lot of it are AI engine behind the interface.
Thank you, Mr. Eric and Mr. Tiong. Any advice to the industry players? And Mr. Tiong or Mr. Eric, any one of you may start first.
Well, I would say if you ask me on the advice to industry players, especially to the SME in the manufacturing sector, I would say that to find out more information, especially the assistance given by government, especially like for example, an organization like MPC, MITI, or MIDA, and even including MDAC. I think there's a lot of grant or assistance or even incentive given out to help companies, especially SME, to go for more digitalization or digital transformation. So I think even if they are they want to help, I think as I try to mention this again regarding this productivity 1010, I think you can go on to MPC website to find out a bit more about this productivity 1010. is basically a mentoring program, a virtual mentoring program that that you can actually sign up and you can get mentors be assigned and to able to assist you virtually to actually help you to actually find out your current situation right now, and then which area you can focus on to help you to improve in this to get you into this journey of industry what they call digitalization or even industry 4 if you want to look at it that way. Yeah, thank you.
No, I agree.
Eric.
I think what Mr. Tiong shared is very true. The support structure, whether it's from government, industry, best known methods, I think most are there. Most of it are there. So it's not really very difficult. I think for the SMEs or anyone in the audience, I think you have to look at maybe your pain points. Is it a top line? Is it a bottom line? Is it improvement? So you got to identify a pain point that you need to solve. So a problem statement. And once you have that number one problem statement to solve, and then you need to consider, can IoT, AI, solve this set of problems, right? So some cases may not be. So therefore, maybe wrong problem, wrong solution. But once you find and identify a problem that IoT, AI could solve, then I think there's enough deployments out there, enough solutions out there that you don't have to start from scratch. You could just adopt it from the market or engage the ecosystem to help you. And then you start small. And then when you see the benefit, then you keep investing, right? And also you must know where the market is going, why data is so important and critical and so forth. I think once you are able to identify that deployment pain points, I just think the rest will just come. It's not very tough. Just like how we adopted the smartphone, the PC, and some of these new process or new tools. I think over time, Internet of Things, AI will be a fairly standard, solution for all of us to use and adopt.
Thank you, Mr. Eric and Mr. Tiong, for taking the time answering the questions. I'm going to pass this to Ms. Jovi.
Thank you, Ms. Atira. Ladies and gentlemen, pardon me for that. Thank you, Ms. Atira. Ladies and gentlemen, after the Q&A sessions, here comes to the end of our live interview session. Once again, thank you, Mr. Tiong and also Mr. Eric for joining us today. The sharing is very much close to our life nowadays.